Hi, we're talking about the history of the Jews in a nutshell. So we have seen what has happened up until the 1930s. So today we will start with something terrible that happened next. Italy was becoming closer and closer to Germany, and although there were never deportations under fascism, what happened was that in 1938 the laws for the defense of the race were passed. And these were terrible laws that threw the community back of a century. They no longer had to stay in the ghetto, but what happened was that they could not work in the public administration, they could not work in free professions, like they could not be lawyers or doctors, they could not be university teachers or teachers, and their children could not go to school with all the other Roman kids, or Italian kids in general. They could not have mixed marriages, and they could not have Aryan people working for them. This threw everybody back so much. They were, the grandparents were still thinking, they had still lived in the ghetto. They were thinking that their grandchildren would never have to see such a hard life again, and they did. So what happened? University professors had to leave their jobs, generals, admirals, so they all had to go. Lawyers, kids had to get out of school. It was extremely traumatic. But what happened next? Italy didn't get into the Second World War until 1940, when Mussolini thought it was almost won and it would have been quick and easy and he could share the spoils of war. But so the Jews did not have to be in the military service. There were no Jewish soldiers fighting for Italy in the Second World War, as there were for the First World War when they had full rights. But pretty quickly, or not quickly enough, on the 25th of July 1943, Mussolini was ousted by the Grand Council of Fascism, and on the 8th of September, after some secret diplomatic relations, the armistice was signed, and that was not extremely well planned. The king and the general-in-chief left for Brindisi and left Rome to the German. So the Nazis seized the power in Rome, and that was terrible. What happened? The Jewish community was bracing itself for what was to come. At first, the German asked for 50 kilos of gold to be delivered promptly or else. And they said, if the gold is delivered, then nothing bad will come to the Jews. So everybody in Rome, not just the Jewish community, but lots and lots of Romans and priests as well, went and gave what little they had, might have been their wedding rings, to accumulate this huge amount of gold. And luckily they managed to get it done, but clearly it was not over. The Germans had other things planned, and so on the morning of the Sabbath, of 16th of October 1943, the Germans came and raided the houses of lots and lots of Jewish people, and rounded up over 1,000 people, and they were gone to Auschwitz, never to come back again. 16 out of over 1,000 people came back. Luckily, a lot of Jewish people still remained. They were hiding, they got away with it, and they were being hidden by the non-Jewish Romans. So although it was a terrible thing, it sort of cemented a relationship with the Romans. And the Romans invented all sorts of stratagems with the Jewish Romans, so that they would live and not be taken away as well. Another terrible fact happened, which again cemented the relations of the Jewish and the Catholic Romans, and it's there was an attack to the German troops, and the Germans retaliated, and they killed, it was the 24th of March 1944, and at the Fosse Ardeatine they killed 335 Romans, both Catholic and Jewish. 75 Jewish, the others Catholics. And it was terrible times in Rome, but luckily the Americans and the Allied forces were trying to break into Rome, and finally they managed. Between the 4th and the 5th of June 44, they freed Rome, and the Germans were gone. The Jewish people had their own rights back. Everything came back to not normal, but they were free. Most of the people were deported, never made it back. There was huge grief, not just for the Jewish community, for the Romans at large, but it was only getting better from there. So we'll see what happened after the Second World War in the next video. Ciao.